Welcome everyone to another CTC Software webinar. My name is Chris Bircher, Director of Technical Services here at CTC. And today we are going to go over one of our newer tools called Clash Seeker from the SIM Project Suite. Before we begin, I'm going to encourage everyone to ask questions throughout the webinar using the questions panel. And I will do my best to answer those questions as I go out, as I present today, and I will certainly make time at the very end to answer anything else that's left, just to make sure you guys get everything you need. In addition to that, this is also being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel shortly after the presentation is concluded, sometime in the next day or so, will be my guess. So with that said, let's get going. All right, so as many of you may know or may have heard, clash detection has become a very popular topic over the years, and especially in the buildings industry, working with, say, a lot of maybe Revit projects and things like that. They're using Navisworks and they're trying to coordinate all the building components and wanting to begin incorporating some of those building components and such with some of the site work that's going on, that we've been working on. And, you know, the civil industry as a whole has kind of been left behind, or had been left behind. And there wasn't really anything outside of Navisworks that we could work with. Some of the tools and functions that we have within Civil 3D have sort of started piecemealing little bits and pieces in here and there. And just recently, we got the feature to do some interference checking, right? But that's not a huge clash detection type product like Navisworks might be. And so there's a lot left to be desired with it. There's a lot missing. And that's where we come in. That's where Clash Seeker comes in. We can do a lot more of the Navisworks style collision checks within the program. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. So what we're going to get through today is we're going to talk about Clash Seeker, get you familiarized with the interface, show you how to set up some Clash reports and how to save those settings to be used on future projects, and how to review and manage the clashes that we end up with. And then for those of you that don't have your hands on the SIM Project Suite yet, I will show you how to get your hands on it and where you can get some additional resources. I am not big on PowerPoints, so I'm just going to show you everything I can do. Alrighty, so let me just find a quick little drawing file to use, and actually I want to use, oh no, we can do this one. Okay, so just quickly, for those of you, and this is I'm going to just kind of show you the new tool that Autodesk put out in Civil 3D in the last couple of releases, and how that works. So we have, if you ever wanted to actually run a clash check, or a clearance check, or an interference of sorts, we have this button now on the Analyze tab called Interference Check. And when you run that, there's no dialog box that pops up. It's just a command line prompt, which a lot of the stuff is. But what you do, you pick pipe networks, and that's basically what it's designed for, is interference checking on pipe networks and piping. So you go ahead and you pick the first one, like I did there, and then you can select a part from the same network or from a different network entirely. And when you do that, and it popped enough of the screen here, of course it did, you get a small little dialog box here, and you get to choose which networks are number one, which one's number two, what layer, what styles you want to, check based on. And you could do a little bit of tweaking, but not much. So you have the ability to specify any proximity checks and, for clearances or to make sure you have enough cover. And you set that up. You can pick your distance. You can check a scale factor if necessary, if you're working with more annotative objects. But that's about it. There's not a whole lot to do. And it's one check at a time. So in this case, it found 36 interferences between pipe network 1, which was the purple one, and pipe network 2, which is
how's that? Is that better? I think it might be better. Are we doing better, Bill? Everyone? Okay, excellent. Then we'll just do this. Headset must have died. All right, apologize for that. So, I don't know how much you heard or didn't hear. We were trying to go through and show you a brief example on kind of what the interference checking within Civil 3D currently is able to do. And while it's available and you can do a little bit, there's not a lot to it, and there's not a lot you can do. So Clash Seeker allows you to do what the interference check allows you to do, and then some. So the Clash Seeker is on the Sim Project Suite tab right here in the middle. And when I open up the tool, and I've actually already got a couple of set up here, so I'm going to take a step back and get rid of both of these and start over. So this is what the interface looks like right out of the gate. And you have a couple of options here. The top half is where we set up what we want to clash, what our clash sets is what we call them. That's where we define everything. The types of objects that we're going to clash. If we want to check for a hard clash or a cover type clash or some type of within a proximity, and some tolerances. We build all that in the top half. The bottom half is where we review the clashes that we set up after they've been run. So we can review everything down here. There's a color coding legend over here off to the side to let you know what the different colors mean based on when the clash has been run. And you can kind of control some of that based on how you want to manage it as you continue on. And then we have some additional visibility options over here and table/report options, depending on how you want to manage the collisions after the fact, whether it's just in this window or do you want to export it to Excel or create a table within the drawing itself. So we have a few options here. And then within the options itself, we've got some program defaults that we can specify and how we want to do precisions and how our export settings should be mapped, where our settings files are saved to, and all that fun stuff. So we have some options at our disposal for management. So I'm just going to start off and I'm going to do a really basic set, right? So, and actually the basic set was going to be in this drawing. So I'm going to switch over here quickly. And what I've got here, and you can kind of see this, is I've got this it's a polyline with little gray boxes on it. And then I've got a bunch of trees kind of over the top of it. Now, I just want to make sure that that polyline is supposed to represent a wall. I want to make sure that we don't have any issues there. And to be honest, if these trees are supposed to grow to be, 35, 40 feet tall, I want to make sure that I've got a few feet there. Visually, I'm pretty sure I don't. But just to show you how this will work, what you'll do is you'll first hit the plus sign to add a clash set definition line. And then you can name it if you want, object type versus object type. I've done a lot of this in Navisworks over the years. And I typically try to be relatively explicit in my naming so that I, not only myself remembers, but my coworkers and my colleagues can tell what I'm clashing against or what the clash set is meant for here, not just a generic clash set one. So in this case, I would say, tree versus walls, right? And you pick the source type. So these are all the different object types that we can run clashes against or with. In this case, the trees symbols here are blocks, and the wall element is a polyline. And now I get to go ahead and define how to select these items. So there's a couple of different selection methods, and that all happens with this little select objects icon right here. And I get to go, there's a couple of ways to do this. You can manually select your items to kind of keep it to a minimum as far as what's being analyzed in the drawing. Or we can set up a filter and base it off the layer or the name of the block or a description that's built in somewhere. And then there's additional filters for excluding certain objects. So in this case, I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm just going to do it by layer. I'm going to use my pick layer button here and click the tree, and it automatically sees that that's the layer the tree is on, and it tells me throughout the drawing there are 47 trees. Perfect. I'm going to hit OK. And then for my wall-based polyline, I'm going to do the same exact thing, and we're going to base it off the layer. And there are 9 of those drawn. So with that, I'm good. So now when I run it now, it's gonna scan the drawing for the 47 objects versus these other 9 and tell me how many are gonna fall within my tolerance here. And to specify some of those clash tolerances, there's an additional settings button here that you click on. And you can specify a little bit, depending on the objects being clashed against each other, this window will change to show you some different options here. So in this case, I know that these are all just 2D elements, and they should all be at the same kind of level in a sense, right? So I can ignore the Z value. If you knew that we were dealing with 3-dimensional polylines or pipes or various types of solids in a surface, you may not want to ignore the Z value. You get that option in just about every single clash setup. And then I want to include proximity clashes, and let's say I want to make sure that these guys don't fall within a 3-foot buffer, right? So well, you know what? Let's do this first. I'm going to run it with nothing, right? So at this point, it's looking for a hard clash. Do these objects touch each other? Okay. And if I hit run, it's going to show me down here in the little status bar. So right now it's thinking about it, it's analyzing the drawing, it's looking for some clashes. And eventually, if it takes any more than a few seconds, you'll see a status bar and it'll tell you which clash it's on and how far it's along. So in my case, the origin points don't intersect each other, so I got nothing. Okay, so let's try this again. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to include proximity clashes and type in a buffer distance of maybe 2 feet. And I can hit run up here or run all. It's just going to run the one, and then run it again. And you can see now I've got clashes. So now it's telling me all of the different trees that run into that polyline, or one of the polylines, because there's a few other ones here. And it tells me the clash distance between the polyline itself and the midpoint of my tree block, or where the trunk would be, right? So at this point, I can now review this a little bit further. where I can select the clash itself and highlight it or zoom in on it. It's extremely helpful if you've got a huge drawing and we're clashing hundreds of objects versus hundreds of other objects. It can get really complicated, or maybe 100 objects versus a surface, right? Having the ability to click this zoomed object is going to be really nice, so I can see where things are at and what's happening here. So very nice, very helpful, and a good way to visualize everything. Right. So now I got to back out. I'm gonna jump out here real quick. Oh no, I didn't mean to hit properties. Close that. Thank you. All right. So back in the Clash Secret window here. So now that I've run that, it's in the drawing. So at any time, I can come back and select this set and review the results. They're always going to be there, and you don't have to worry about losing anything, even if I don't save anything, right? As long as I save the drawing, I've got my Clash history, and it's going to remain as your Clash history until either you delete the set from your model or from your DWG, or until everything has been resolved. So for those of you that are kind of new to this topic, we have the ability to control some statuses. So you get, by default, every time you run a clash, it's going to come up as new. Then if I were to save my drawing, close it, come back tomorrow, open it up again, and review my set, these are all going to be considered active, meaning the clash is there. Or if I were to run it again, they will all turn to active, which means, yep, they've been there. We knew it, just haven't gotten to it yet, or we haven't dealt with that part of the drawing yet. Then we have kind of two additional manual options here for you to choose from. There's a reviewed setting and an approved setting. Now, both of these are here for you to use as clash management. So if we've looked at it, I don't know what to do about this yet, right? We haven't gotten there. We have to have a meeting of the minds to figure out what we want to do. You mark it reviewed, but you're not done yet. Or there's this approved option. Similar concept, except this one is more along the lines of, hey, I know it clashes in the drawing, but on the site, it's not gonna. Or it's okay for this condition to fall within this tolerance because this tree isn't going to be that tall, or something along those lines, or we've received an exception to allow this condition to occur. So, and what you set for these two, they'll hold and they'll remain that way throughout the, until you say otherwise. And then the last one being resolved. If something gets marked resolved, it better be fixed. Otherwise, it's going to come back the next time you run that clash and show up as new again. So resolved needs to be resolved. That needs to no longer show up in the clash report. As soon as it does, it's going to come back again. So when you're going through some of these options here, I want to point out the Z value. And if you leave this unchecked, and because you want to get an elevational clash inclusion here, it's going to give you that total distance in the report here, but we have the ability to insert Kogel points down here to locate the clash itself, so that, and those will have labels associated with them that tell you what clash set they're from, what clash number it is, and what the actual positioning of that clash is intended to be. So it'll give you more of the coordinate points that you're looking for, even though the table here doesn't necessarily show you all the different aspects. It'll show you the distance, but not the X, Y, and Z as different coordinates. But the Kogel points will get you the rest of the information that you need. So what I want to do here real quick is I'm going to go ahead and save this out. So all of the clash sets that you create can be saved, right? So if I made more than just the one, and I'll go ahead and create another one here, and I'm just going to call it tree versus hydrant, because I have a hydrant in there somewhere. Both are blocks. And again, we'll just quickly grab this one. I'm just going to do a quick little setup here. And then for this one, it's this guy. And actually, I guess it wasn't a hydrant. Maybe. Anyway, I thought it was. But I'm going to save this. So the idea here is you can save all your settings. And what it's going to do, and what you need to do when you save. Oh shoot! I hit too many escapes. When you save the sets, whatever you have selected is what's going to save. So I want to select both of those, and then it'll save me a collection of the clash definitions to my C drive, or in this case, to my C drive. So I'm going to call this my clash set overall, we'll call it for now. Okay. And even if I didn't run it, I've got it set up, I've got it labeled, I've got all my definitions set the way I want. That's fine for this. And I'm just going to hit close. Now, if I switch to another DWG here, another drawing file that I've got open, and try to load that clash in again, it's going to do what it can to populate that clash set based on the elements in that new drawing. Okay, so if I, just to show you what's going to happen here, if I open up Clash Seeker, and load those settings up, so we have this open button here where you can go ahead and load up any settings file that you want. And I'm going to go grab these from here. It's going to bring them in, and if I had these elements with those layers in this drawing, it's going to be ready to clash right now. But since I don't, it doesn't have anything on that. I can even try to hit refresh on this to validate, to confirm. Well, I don't have any of those elements in here, but it still remembered all the history. It remembered everything that you had defined within it. So as long as you saved it out the way you want to use it somewhere else, it's going to remember that. So what you can do is you can build out anywhere from 2 to 30 clash sets in your Clash Seeker window here, save all of them to a single file, and then load them in to any other project file that you want, and it will, as long as those objects are defined, and maybe you've only got 10 working clash sets for that project. Those 10 will have data populated. When you hit run all, it'll run clashes on those 10. The other 20 will just be empty. And if you don't need them, get rid of them. It'll be up to you how you want to manage that. So in this case, I don't have anything here. So I'm just going to go ahead and create another new clash. And these are parcels. And I believe that's my alignment. So I'm just going to do P versus A. And we have the ability to do parcel segments and alignments against each other. So those another set of scenarios that we can run against. And whether it's I select manually in the drawing and just pick that one object, or again, pick by layer or by description, you can see how things have changed a little bit in here. And with the parcels, I can pick a site to go along with it to help me choose which parcel segments I'm actually going to reference here. And then same thing with the alignment. I can go ahead and grab this, do the individual manual picker again, if that's the case, or take it an extra step further and use the filter. Hit OK. I've got my 2 objects here, and maybe we'll do Z value, maybe put a buffer 5 in this time. In this case, now we have this clash sensitivity percentage, right? A new slider that appears. And this gives you the opportunity to control how precise do I want this to be, right? The lower, the higher up I make this, the more checks it's going to do against this alignment line versus my parcel line to see how many points of this line fall within my buffer zone in this case. So if I just left it at a low value, it's going to tell me it's going to give me a clash, and it's going to say, no, you had one hit. If I jacked it up to here, depending on how many segments I have, I'll get more clashes in the list. So it all kind of depends on how many different, I guess, vertices or points really in the alignment lines in the segment and any of the segment lines that you have. And the higher the number of those and the higher the sensitivity becomes, the more clashes that you're going to end up with. Is basically the short story of it all. And now if I hit run, I got the 1, and it's a hit right there, and it tells you hard clash, boom, right there on the spot. And which is exactly what I was hoping to see. So now I've got a couple more things I want to show you real quick, and I'm going to switch on over to one more drawing, I think. Well, I'll take that back. I got 2 more. I want to show you the pipe one again because that's kind of an important clash. So in this case, one of the things that will need to be clashed, or that you'll want to use this on, is, in this case, we've got pipes interfering with whatever this solid object is here, and I think the intention here was that it was going to be a soil boring, and it fell. They're interfering with some of the underground pipe objects that we've got here. So we have the opportunity, and you can visually see that it's clashing inside of the object viewer here. Sometimes that was kind of the one way to do it in the past before we even had interference checking. And it's still a very valid way to do it because you can't check against everything, right? So this hits the surface here. Oh, I missed the network, but it also interferes with the network. So we've got a couple of different clash types we can run here. So I can do the surface versus whatever that object type is, which is, I believe, a solid. And then I can do a solid versus the pipes itself and run a couple of different clash sets here and get some different results. So if I do, let's go surface against the block, and I'm going to add another one for block against the pipes, and we'll just call it as such, surface and block. I like to throw the verses in there. That's just how I do it. And pipe versus blocks. So if I go ahead and, well, let's just do this. I'll do by layer again, and we'll grab that object there. And for the block, I will grab, let's do it the same way. Why not? Should give me both at the same time. Wait, is that not a, I thought that was a solid. It is a solid. Oh, I grabbed block. My mistake. That would be my mistake. I had the wrong object type picked. Look at that. Okay, there we go. That's better. Okay. Oops. So now, and I got to change that again too, because that's not a block, that's a solid. So now I can grab that, grab the object, do it again, and okay, there, grab the pipes, do by layer, and I'm going to grab this one on that. And I believe we'll do that. And now I have the option to choose proximity clashes. So in the instance with working with surfaces, we can check to see if something is above, how far something is above the surface or below the surface, to see if that's going to, if it falls within our cover range, right? So with this case, I just want to check to see if there's a hard clash at all. So I'm going to leave that one alone. With the, and same thing with the solid versus the pipe. I just want to see if they actually do touch each other. And I will add a third one though for the surface and the pipe. This one, I want to include the buffer here, and I think, oh, I don't remember what the elevation is, so we're just going to type in 10. So let's do this. Let's get the surface set up again real quick. Do that one. We'll get my pipe, and I'll do the green one this time. Okay, I think we're good. Now, you can do these one at a time if you'd like, right? Each set that you have has its own run button. You don't have to, though. You can do all of it at once by using the run all button. Now, the more you have the more stuff you have set up, the longer it's going to take, right? So, and it's going to tell you that. The program will let you know, hey, you got a lot going on here. This may take a while, which is just a nice little reminder, especially if you're working on a large project. You've got a really big site, and maybe you've got a lot of pipes, big surface, multiple surfaces, so it's nice to have those reminders every now and again. And you'll see the status bar will update down here. It'll tell you exactly which clash it's looking for at the time. So you'll kind of get to start to gauge which one's the set that's going to take the most time. So it'll kind of give you some of that information as you're going through it, and hopefully try to set some expectations a little bit here. So that's all the whole point of that. Otherwise, it looked like it was locking up on you, so we don't want that. All right, we're almost done here, and we'll make sure that everything looks good. Aha! So we do have a number of things here, and it tells me exactly where we've got problems, right? So I put in a 10-foot buffer, and every single one of those elements falls within that range. So according to my rule set, the whole drawing's wrong. So I would have to go back and make some adjustments, or put the right numbers in if that's the case. So, and then you have the option to pick which ones you're looking at here. So in this case, that's the only one that came up with anything, because either this shows those should have been touching each other. Anyway, maybe they're, oh, I'm not going to run them all again. Nope, not that time. I'm just going to run this one. See if anything changes here. At any rate, so when you start making some of these changes here, if to statuses, say you mark something reviewed, and then save it, close it, come back tomorrow, drawing's been updated a little bit, and you run it again, right? If you manually mark that reviewed, it's going to stay reviewed. Everything else should turn active. If you marked it approved, it'll stay approved. Now, if you fixed something, or something was addressed in the drawing and it fixed itself, right? That's no longer a clash. That should auto mark itself resolved, give you an indication that things were resolved, and then eventually disappear from your list because it's been resolved. It should, which is what it needs to do. Okay, if you mark something reviewed or approved and it becomes resolved, again, the same thing's going to happen. It's going to auto mark it and ultimately remove it from the list. Otherwise, As long as it's still a clash in the drawing and you've marked it reviewed or approved, it will stay marked as such until you change it or until it's fixed. Okay. So the last thing I want to talk to you guys about today is how we can take our clash reports or our clash results that we have here and create either a table in the drawing itself or export them out to Excel. And so say I've gone through, I've made some changes, I've marked a few up, we've reviewed them, I've approved a couple, you know, whatever the case may be, depending on the scenario. And now I want to give this to someone else. Maybe there's something that they need to do in their drawing. Maybe there's something I want a record of it outside of the application itself. I have two different ways to generate a report. Whether that's, I can create an AutoCAD table and choose which columns I want to include. I can organize them however I want. I can choose a specific table style if I have one built. How do you want everything to show up in uppercase, title case, lowercase? What the title of the table is going to be? Which one did I grab? Type versus site. I can't type today. Flash it is. And if you want to change any of the stuff, you can go through this little browse icon here and uncheck boxes if there's certain things you don't care to include. Maybe you don't need to know what type of clash it was in this report because you knew, or all we care about is the, you know, maybe we don't need the clash set name, but we just need the clash number so we can find it later on. You can do all that. Hit OK. You hit OK. I'm going to be prompted to insert my table somewhere. So I'm going to click over there and it's going to go ahead and drop the table in now for me using the standard table that I had specified here. Option 2 is an Excel file. Same exact process, except now it's going to save it to an Excel drawing. And I'm just going to put it there. And that's it. Now I've got another place and another way to review this. And it's exactly what showed up in the table that I placed into the model. Tells me the clash name. In this case, I took the clash, the set name out because I put the set name here. And it tells me the objects that I clashed. So what type of clash, the distance, the status. Okay, and I got the same thing over here. Exactly the same. Right. Now, I didn't build a custom uni table style for this, so it's just a generic standard one. Nothing to write home about. But it's exactly what I told it to do. Now, there's two things as far as updates go that need to be mentioned because I haven't quite mentioned those yet. Drawing changes. And you've got a table in your drawing and you want to know if that clash updated anything, right? So when this is my pipe versus site clash, we actually have an update clash table option here that you can choose from to see if this actually changed, if anything in here changed. So if you made edits to the drawing and say moved a pipe or adjusted the properties of a pipe and, you know, manipulated a few things, we can find out and we can see if that fixed any of the issues that we had previously or did it just create new ones. And, you know, obviously I just made a whole bunch of new ones here, but that's okay. Sake of example, if we just do update clash table, it's going to ask me now to pick an element from the clash set that has a table that needs to be updated. In this case, the pipe. So if I, or no, I'm sorry, pick the table. I went the other way around. Pick the table. And it's running through the update now. Oh. Yep, there it goes. You got it. Hit enter. Now it's running the update. You get the progress bar to let you know that it was running the update. And if it finds any differences, it's going to show you those differences. The more familiar you are with the Clash setup process and what's in your drawing file itself, the more you'll be able to see the changes made to this and track issues being resolved as you work throughout your process. So, and this unfortunately was the longer table, had the most clashes in it, so it's taken a little bit, but that's okay. That's what it's doing. Things aren't going to happen instantaneously always, especially when working with larger clash reports. So even then, that wasn't that bad. Okay. And I don't know which one I changed. So anyway, okay. I think that just about concludes everything that I wanted to show you guys today. So that brings me to the last little piece here I want to show you real quick. For those of you that do not have your hands on the Sim Project Suite yet, you can get your hands on a trial of it by going to our website at ctcsoftware.com. Underneath products, you will find Sim Project Suite. Get a trial, take a look at it, see what it is. The latest version is 24.0. You will find it there. It's been out for a little bit, so it's in our 23.7 release as well, or any of the other 23s, or a couple of the other 23s for that matter. In addition to that, check out our YouTube channel. We've got information about the Sim Project Suite up on our YouTube channel. And more Clash Seeker videos will be coming after this, I promise. And that's all I got. So thank you all for joining me today. I appreciate having you guys here. We look forward to having you guys every week. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week.